His last concert that he called This Is It, he named it that because his plan was to retire from touring and focus on being a professional artist.
Did you know that Michael Jackson's childhood dream was to become a professional artist and go to art college? He was even practicing drawing from an early age, hoping to achieve that. In an interview with him when he was a child and still member of the Jackson 5, he said, "I work on my sketching as often as I can so that someday I will be able to study art in college." Michael's strong relationship with fine art is a side that usually does not receive much focus. In fact, Michael had great skill in drawing and an obsession with fine arts. And this side of his personality was one of the most important factors that shaped his artistic identity in the world of music. So how exactly and what can we learn from that? This is what we will highlight in this video, and we will also analyze his paintings in terms of skill and subject and know what they tell us about his personality.
Michael, what is your hobby?
Well, I have my favorite hobby is drawing, and I do a lot of different drawings. Matter of fact, I have some here.
Well, isn't that just a little
Anyway, I want to talk about it first.
once in a lifetime thing? Does Captain have 17 drawings and an entire exhibition behind the couch?
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That is amazing. That is super. When I saw Miss J. Pittman on TV, I just had to draw her because I thought it was a great role Cicely Tyson played. She did a great job on it.
Right. Oh, that's magnificent.
We have another one of Michael. We have another one on the easel.
Yeah.
Oh, we have another one on the easel over here.
Yeah. This is
So-
another one of my favorites, Charlie Chaplin. Yeah.
What is this?
This is Charlie Chaplin.
Oh, that's beautiful.
He's so talented. Well, you are talented.
That is really something.
See, if that kid could only sing and dance, wouldn't it be great?
That's right.
In fact, Michael impressed those around him with his drawing skills since his childhood. There is a funny story told by his classmate who said,
So I had an art class with him, and I would watch him draw these drawings, and then he'd ball it up and throw it away. I asked him one day, "I love that Charlie Chaplin drawing. Can I have that?" And he said, "Sure, go ahead and take it home and enjoy it." But he didn't sign it. And so I got home, and my dad said, "That should probably be signed." And he sent me back to school, and I had him sign it, and he just picked up a crayon and signed Michael Jackson.
Now, that one's pretty obvious. It says Chaplin. Now, what can you tell me about the one closer to you?
This one, I really enjoyed the picture of this woman, and I asked him who it was, and I couldn't remember who it was, and I had an opportunity to present these pictures to Jermaine Jackson, and he told me that this looked like one of the tutors that they would go around on tour with, because they weren't in school, they would have a tutor, and that looked like her.
so perhaps this is her. Michael's drawings of Charlie Chaplin are perfect examples of his early talent. He used exaggeration to really capture Charlie Chaplin's essence, the iconic mustache and the famous side glance. Even the lines in the suit are loose, perfectly matching the character's baggy style. Most people at this age actually draw flat outlines, but Michael was already thinking about light and shadows. And he wasn't just doodling on a small notebook, he was working on larger scale, which shows he was really taking his art seriously. There is also this painting. It's a still life of jar of paintbrushes and some tubes. This is a huge step in maturity. Look at the horizon line behind the jar. He actually moved on from flat drawings and clearly experimenting with three-dimensional space. We can really see his artistic skills here. He's also playing with high contrast. That dark background makes the jar pop. And he also understood texture. So yeah, this painting really shows how from an early age he had the artistic eye and the technical disciplines to back it up. There is a cute interview with Michael Jackson's sister Toya when she was a kid, and they asked her about her brother, and she said, "He's a terrific artist. He's great at drawing cartoons." And I remember once he said that if he couldn't be in show business for any reason, he'd have been a cartoonist. His mother, Catherine, also said,
Michael loved art a lot. He loved paintings. He loved watercolors. He loved even the crayons, and he would always draw. And when he was even in school, he would draw pictures, and they took one of his drawings and put it on the front of the yearbook. He taught himself, just a talent that he had. And I can't say too much more about him, only his father was an artist too. He loved to paint and draw, so I thought maybe he might have picked it up from him, but he had a natural talent for it. Michael did. When he was just a child, when we moved to Havenhurst, before we remodeled, it had a little house in the back, and he took that little house and he made it out to of an art studio for himself.
Perhaps he had the talent from his father, according to his mother. You can see here a painting his father made of himself with his children, the Jackson 5, and he copied it from a photo. But despite his father having drawing skills, it seemed that his cruelty and emotional distance from his children prevented a bond from forming with Michael over drawing, and he didn't encourage him in it. In fact, Michael credits his love for art and his artistic skills to Diana Ross. In his book Moonwalk, he talks about the time he and his brothers lived with Diana Ross when he was a child for a period upon the Jackson 5 sign-in with Motown. He said, "This was an important period in my life because Diana loved art and encouraged me to appreciate it too. She took the time to educate me about it. We'd go out almost every day, just the two of us, and buy pencils and paint. When we weren't drawing or painting, we'd go to museums. She introduced me to the works of the great artists like Michelangelo, and that was the start of my lifelong interest in art. She really taught me a great deal. It was so new to me and exciting. It was really different from what I was used to doing, which was living and breathing music, rehearsing day in and day out. You wouldn't think a big star like Diana would take the time to teach a kid to paint, to give him an education in art, but she did, and I loved her for it." Michael's love for visiting museums stayed with him his entire life. He would visit artworks and become moved to tears by them. Michael said, "I love to draw. Pencil, ink, pen, I love art. When I go on tour and visit museums in Holland, Germany, or England, you know, those huge paintings, I'm just amazed. You don't think a painter could do something like that. I can look at a piece of sculpture or painting and totally lose myself in it. Standing there watching it and becoming part of the scene. It can draw tears. It can touch you so much. See, that's where I think the actor or performer should be, to touch that truth inside of a person, touch that reality so much that they become part of what you're doing, and you can take them anywhere you want to. You're happy, they're happy. Wherever human emotion, they're right there with you. I love realism. I don't like plastics. Deep down inside, we're all the same. We all have the same emotions." Michael had special interest in the geniuses of the Renaissance, especially Michelangelo. He saw him as a mirror to himself, his creative obsession and his constant search for artistic immortality. He says,
Well, let's face it, I mean, who wants mortality? I mean, everybody wants immortality. You want what you create to live, be it sculpture or painting or music or composition. Like Michelangelo said, you know, I know the creator will go, but his work survives. That is why to escape death, I attempt to bind my soul to my work.
In 1993, he said,
I'm a great fan of art. I love Michelangelo. If I had a chance to talk to him or read about him, I would want to know about what inspired him to become who he is, the anatomy of his craftsmanship, not about who he went out with last night or why he decided to sit out in the sun so long. What's wrong with, I mean, that's what's important to me. How much plastic surgery have you had?
In his book Moonwalk, Michael talks with great admiration about Michelangelo's sacrifice while painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and how he poured his entire soul into that work. He poured his soul into this work. He knew in his heart that one day he would die, but that work he did would live on. You can tell he painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel with his soul. At one point he even destroyed it and did it over, because he wanted it to be perfect. He said, if the wine is sour, pour it out. What's interesting here is how this artistic philosophy seeking perfectionism in Michelangelo resembled Michael Jackson, who transformed it into the world of music production. For example, in one of the most critical moments of his career, in 1982, CBS was pushing hard to finish the Thriller album on strict deadline. And because of this rush and lack of time, the initial version of the album came out without care for artistic details. When he sat in the studio to hear the final master, he was so disappointed that he even cried. It wasn't the perfection he envisioned, and at this moment he was possessed with the same creative spirit as Michelangelo. He and his team stood up to the executives and refused to release the album. So just as Michelangelo destroyed his own work to get it right, Michael returned to the studio with Quincy Jones and Bruce Sweden. They started remixing every track, and the result? Well, Michelangelo created the most iconic work in art history, and Michael Jackson created the best-selling album of all time. This spiritual bond extends even to the philosophy of creativity itself. In 2002, when Michael was asked in his interview with Vibe magazine about how he would write songs, he recalled a scene from Michelangelo. He said this, "I believe it's already up there before you are born, and then it drops right into your lap. It's the most spiritual thing in the world. When it comes with all the accompaniments, the strings, the bass, the drums, the lyrics, and you're just the medium through which it comes, the channel." Like Michelangelo would have this huge piece of marble from the quarries of Italy, and he'd say, "Inside is a sleeping form." He takes a hammer and chisel, and he's just freeing it. It's already in there. It's already there. For Michael, a song arrives fully formed out of nowhere, and he is just the tool that carries it. He pours his entire soul into his work to make it live forever, just like the artist who first inspired him.
Gosh, it's hard to explain. It's something that I guess you're just born with. You feel the music. It's like a painter, I guess. You approach the canvas with the paint and the brush, and you're inspired by things around you, I guess, and what's inside of you. And you do it. And I like creating magic. The ideas from the songs I get, I've always said that I don't write my own songs because I feel I'm just a source, I'm just a tunnel, a tube through which they come. I feel somewhere in space they've all been written before. I mean, Billie Jean and Beat It and all those songs have been up there somewhere. It just came through to me. That's how I really feel. So I even though I did it, I just can't always take credit. It's like any great artist, I guess. Leonardo da Vinci, I mean, he's doing it, but it's some other higher force that's making it happen.
Humans have always been obsessed with capturing immortality through art. They all knew that while their bodies would eventually fade, bronze statue or canvas would live forever. And Michael Jackson, who was as much student of history as he was an artist, was deeply drawn to the same idea. A camera documents, but when you commission an artist, you are asking them to reinvent their reality through a specific version. Also, a painting is viewed as something that belongs to museums and treated like history. So when Michael commissioned artists to paint him in classical styles, he knew he was visually merging his image with historical myths and symbols that never die. You see, he painted himself with crown, commissioned artists to paint him as a king, and also held photoshoots in royalty outfits. And as someone who struggled with his appearance and the life of fame, this was a way to restore his confidence. He wanted these paintings to empower him, and a way that he can control his image, away from people's judgment. People may not know that behind such images and works, an individual might be suffering. Some might view it as narcissism, but I see in this case the paintings might be also visual affirmations, just like the affirmations Michael used to write for himself in his notebooks and on sticky notes. And as a very visual person like Michael, this method surely had a big impact on him. Michael adopted the royalty style since his Thriller days, at a time when he needed to maintain his confidence. But more than that, he also wanted to reinforce his voice before the public, the audience, the critics, and everyone else. It was a new era for him. Michael literally applied the rule, act like a king and you'll be perceived as a king. This is what Robert Greene said in his book, The 48 Laws of Power, which Michael read and loved it. And these are images of the actual book with Michael's notes on it. Michael also wore Napoleonic clothing. And like Napoleon Bonaparte, who was also a person interested in arts, he had strong opinion regarding appearance and clothing, seeing them as powerful political and psychological tools to gain prestige and control people's minds. Napoleon Bonaparte once said, "Orders and decorations are necessary in order to dazzle the people." No one can deny the fact that Michael is one of the best examples of personal branding. His artistic intelligence in using this visual identity and style was an important part of his musical career, and it led him to earn his title, the King of Pop. Another part to consider is that it's clear that Michael saw his success not just as personal achievements for himself, but also as representation for Black people. Michael was a person who faced racism his entire life, especially in the music and media industry. So by highlighting his royal side, Michael wanted to break the stereotypes pushed by the media and show a new model full with prestige, respect, talent, and deep culture. So how art influenced his career? When people talk about Michael Jackson, they usually focus on his music and the way he revolutionized music and dance. But people often miss one of the real secrets behind his genius. He had the vision of a true artist, which elevated his career from just entertainment to visual legacy. Michael's work was performance art. By every academic and artistic definition, it is performance art. So this is how art influenced him. 1. The pursuit of perfection. Michael's influence by the Italian Renaissance, especially by geniuses like Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, planted a fixation on artistic perfection within him. Great painters would spend years working on one artwork to achieve absolute beauty. Like, do you know that the Mona Lisa took 4 years to paint? So Michael literally carried this obsession into music studios and stadiums, whether during song recording sessions or long hours of dance rehearsals, until he reached a state of visual and auditory perfection. Michael's eye never missed the smallest details. For example, in the Smooth Criminal music video, he noticed that his tie didn't spin clearly with him in the shots. So a small weight was added to the end of the tie, allowing it to move clearly and dramatically as it spun during the turns. There is also anatomy, composition, focal points, and leading lines. Those who study art study anatomy to understand how movement occurs, how the eye is drawn to motion, and how to extract the maximum artistic expression while drawing that body. Michael employed this in his performance. He treated his body as an artistic element within a carefully studied composition. He drew attention to specific parts of his body using the concept of visual focal points. There is, for example, isolating the feet. Using shiny white socks and black shoes was stunning signature style, but they served a sharp artistic law, high-value contrast. It made his feet seem as if they were glowing in the darkness of the stage, forcing the viewer to track his complex footwork. The glove, the arm, and the fingertips, these were all focal points that give his hand movement clear leading lines, making even the small gesture look huge and dramatic. Collective movement in group dance, the dancers were geometrically distributed to turn into human leading lines that directed the viewer's eyes towards Michael. Faces are also among the most important elements. The use of face by fine artists is a visual intelligence game. We are biologically programmed to search for the faces immediately because they carry the most important emotional and social information. It's called face pareidolia. A skilled artist knows this and uses it either as a magnet to attract the viewer or as an intrigue tool to force them to search within the painting. Michael played with this rule. He showed his face to create an emotional bond, and he hit it. to direct our eyes to his body movement, or to create an aura or sense of mystery around him. There is also something very important, which is the principle of agon, or the dramatic conflict. Humans always had that interest in conflict. Evolutionary and psychologically, conflict threatens stability. So our brains are programmed to immediately pay attention to any threat or any imbalance, to understand and to resolve it. And great art is what exploits this instinct to capture the viewer's emotions. Conflict is not necessarily fighting, it could be many things, like, for example, visual contrast, like in color, and physical conflict, movement and impact. Also the psychological conflict, or conflict in values, combining opposites, good versus evil, light versus dark, war versus peace. This technique was the core of Michael Jackson's work in videos like Thriller, Beat It, Smooth Criminal, and Bad. Even in his outfits, Michael created a unique visual conflict. For example, he merged sharp masculine military uniforms and made it sometimes soft, shiny, and used fabrics traditionally associated with feminine clothing. This contradictory blend is what created his iconic visual identity. According to a common interpretation of the Aristotelian concept of emotional release in his book Poetics, the Greek philosophers suggested a process of cleaning emotions through tragedy. When a viewer sees violent or painful conflict captured within a work of art, they confront their internal fears, such as death, helplessness, or chaos, in a safe environment, like a gallery or theater, which many believe provides the viewer with a sense of relief and victory after the viewing ends. Asymmetry, or lack of balance. Michael sometimes created imbalance, which keeps your brain in state of tension or visual instability. The brain hates incompleteness and remains in a state of tension. For example, wearing one shiny glove on one hand and not the other is a break in asymmetrical balance. If he had worn two gloves, it would have been balanced and normal, but one glove only created intentional flow. Another example, in the Smooth Criminal music video, have you ever wondered why the dancers bend in different directions? It is to create visual contrast, to do that thing to your brain when you see imbalance. All of these elements are why you could never take your eyes off a Michael Jackson performance. There is also color theory. Michael didn't leave a single color to chance in his style or performances. He employed the color wheel to create dramatic depth. In the Thriller video, he wore a bright red leather jacket intentionally. Red, which is warm, loud color, created a sharp complementary contrast with the blue, cold, foggy night background, making him detach from the frame and take absolute control of the vision. His stage lighting reminds me of tenebrism, which is a painting technique characterized by extreme contrast between light and dark. He's drawing the stage in absolute darkness, like negative space, and then exploding in single spotlight on him. Michael Jackson was a visionary. While music videos before him were merely secondary promotional tools, where the artist stood in front of the camera to sing the song, Michael realized that the image was the key to artistic immortality. He participated in creating concepts for his videos, fighting battles with production companies to increase budgets, believing that a music video must be a cinematic work. This visual intellect and attention to detail forced the entire music industry to restructure itself around the visual aspect, changing the history of music forever. When we analyze Michael Jackson's work, we see an extraordinary mind where multiple types of intelligence intersect. Based on Howard Gardner's theory in 1983, intelligence is divided into several categories, and it appears Michael possessed a rare blend that reached the level of genius in several fields. Visual spatial intelligence, his ability to draw and paint and to imagine dimensions and design shows, and visual engineering, which we touched upon in this video. Kinesthetic, bodily intelligence, he is undoubtedly the best dancer in history. Linguistic intelligence. Michael was the mastermind behind his most famous songs' lyrics. Musical intelligence. He co-produced his songs and possessed supreme sensitivity to rhythm and melody. Logical and mathematical intelligence. This is clear in how he planned his work, even officially registering his own invention for the famous anti-gravity lean. It shows he wasn't just an artist but a genius who built his own tools. Naturalist intelligence. His passion for animals and his ability to connect with nature and understand its details were part of his personality. Social and emotional intelligence. Although his exceptional life circumstances and perhaps also his own personality made his public relations complex, but those close to him testify to his deep understanding of others' feelings and his great empathy. I can also see his social intelligence in the way he marketed himself and also how he controlled the audience. Intrapersonal intelligence. Here lies the secret code. Michael's ability to manage himself, read his own thoughts, and develop his goals through his personal notes was what made him a person who never stopped learning and remained highly disciplined. So with all of these types combined, we can call it polymathic personality type that is very rare. Perhaps this explains Michael's deep admiration for Michelangelo. Both had visual, kinesthetic, linguistic, and creative intelligence, and both suffered in their personal and social lives. Michael's drawings can offer us a window into aspects of his personality. He clearly had good drawing skills, along with advanced understanding of architectural perspective and anatomy. He also had an appreciation for famous real-life figures, as he drew them multiple times. Actually, it caught my attention that he would draw them with details, but when it came to drawing himself as self-portrait, he wouldn't add many details. Why do you think that is? If you look closely at his drawings, you can see his need for freedom and security. His sketches of huge thrones and big royal doors reflect his desire for control and safety, as if he were building a private kingdom where he felt strong and protected. Then you see him run away to his innocence by drawing Disney characters as a safe home from noise and fame and the pressures of life. Now let's pause at this specific drawing. Here Michael drew himself as a terrified child in a corner, holding a microphone that represents his profession and the source of his early fame. The visual composition here displays feeling of loneliness and fear. On the left side of the drawing he wrote this: "Before you judge me, try hard to love me. Look within your heart, then ask, have you seen my childhood?" These are the lyrics to his song Childhood, which he released in 1995 on the History album. Given what was happening to him during this period, it is clear that through this drawing he wanted to motivate them to see his perspective and remember the childhood he never had. Another thing that caught my attention is the size of Michael's signature. Artists usually sign in varying sizes, but here, Michael signs his work as if he's signing an autograph for fans, sometimes even signing over the main element of the artwork, as if he realized that is what gives the work its value. And it's interesting that he had this idea from childhood. Did you know that the childhood dream of going to art college stayed with Michael until the day he passed? Throughout his life, even with his busy schedule, Michael always tried to learn more about art and get better at it. He took private lessons from artists.
His last concert that he called This Is It, he named it that because his plan was to retire from touring and focus on being a professional artist.
That's crazy. I don't think people even knew that.
Yeah, that's why This Is It, because I'm going to go into painting. I'm talking on his behalf. That's what he wanted to do.
In May 2009, his 11-year-old daughter, Paris, encouraged him to follow his childhood dream. and he wanted to do it to inspire his children and be a good role model for them. Michael started making plans to enroll in a program at the Sotheby's Institute of Art in New York, but unfortunately he passed away just 1 month later. Michael didn't get the chance to study art in college, but he helped others do it. He was a longtime supporter of the United Negro College Fund, where he provided scholarships that helped many students afford to study art in college.
For your humanitarian acts, for caring what happens to people, caring enough to do your very best. I assure you that immortality will cradle you gently in its arms, and you will be forever known.
It is said that the sunflower was Michael's favorite flower, and he is the one who made this artwork. It looks like he was inspired by Vincent van Gogh's famous sunflowers paintings. So it's pretty clear he liked Van Gogh's art. By the way, if you're curious about the stories behind Van Gogh's sunflowers and the famous fight with his friend that led to the tragic ear incident, check out my other video on this where I am painting sunflower while talking about the myths and facts about this flower. If you enjoyed this video and appreciate the effort I put into it, please hit the like button and leave a comment. It really makes a difference. And don't forget to subscribe if you like this type of videos. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you think Michael would have become a great fine artist if he didn't focus on music?
We're going into details, it's hard, you really can't. It's just the whole world of it. You just play off of life. I think it's the same thing what inspires painters and sculptors and people of the arts. It's the whole world of it. It's just...